I request the Honorable President of India to light the lamp to mark the historic inauguration of the IIC's Diamond Jubilee celebrations.
Now for you will be that.
Sorry. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's really nice and hot. I wish it was not so, but this is the season and we organize this function outdoors, essentially to be able to accommodate a larger gathering than we could indoors. Shri Ramnath Kovind, Honorable President of India, members of the Board of Trustees, members of the Executive Committee, Director, staff of the Centre, all the distinguished members and their guests who are present here today. It is my great pleasure and a sense of great privilege that I stand here to welcome Rashtrapati Ji, with whom I have had the privilege of working for several years. As the first citizen of India, he is also the senior most honorary member of the India International Centre. Ladies and gentlemen, we are assembled here today for the formal inauguration of the Diamond Jubilee of the Centre, which Rashtrapati Ji very kindly agreed to do so in January this year, but because of the onset of a fresh wave of Covid, we had to defer that function in January, and that is why we are in the hot part of the year. This Diamond Jubilee marks 60 years of our existence. I will not go into excessive detail because of the paucity of time, but I would say very briefly that it was conceived in the late 50s because of several conversations between Dr. Radhakrishnan, then Vice President of India, and Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, then Prime Minister of India, and several other dignitaries of that time. Dr. Radhakrishnan had been on a visit to Tokyo, on more than one visit after the freedom, after we became free. And he had occasion to be hosted, invited to a large function of the Indian community in Japan, in the International House of Japan, IHJ. And he was fascinated by that building, fascinated by objectives of that organization and how it was being run. And on return home, he discussed this with some of his colleagues and also with the Prime Minister. And in between, during his visits to the United States, he had occasion to meet Dr. John D. Rockefeller III, Rockefeller Jr. III, who was a great philanthropist and a person in the post-Second War period, assisting various countries in establishing useful, beneficial institutions which could advance their nationhood and nation building. So Rockefeller was also involved in this discussion, and the preparatory committee was set up once it was agreed that we would have an organization, hopefully in Delhi, on the lines of the International House of Japan. This preparatory committee was chaired by Dr. Chintamani Deshmukh, who had earlier been the Finance Minister of India and the Governor of the Reserve Bank. At that time, he was the chairman of the University Grants Commission. He was a great educationist. The other members of this preparatory committee were the Vice Chancellor of Delhi University, Dr. V.K.R.V. Rao, the Minister for Education, Humayun Kabir, the Ministry of Education represented by Mr. Prem Kirpal, who became our first honorary director, the principal of St. Stephen's College, Professor Rajaram, and the first chairperson of the Indian Council of World Affairs, Professor Hridaynath Kunjuru, known for many other things in the subsequent years. So this committee, I will not go into detail, discuss the broad pattern of what kind of institution we could have in the Indian context, of what kind of area we would require, how much will require to be built, what would be the staffing strength, how many rooms to stay, what kind of hostel arrangements, food arrangements, and so on. A space for a library, space for exposition, for exhibitions, and so on. Again, without going to details, the total amount spent at that point of time in establishing the campus, which is not this campus at that time, this is a much enlarged campus. It was just 52 rooms, a dining hall, a lounge, auditorium, 3 committee rooms, a conference room, and an exhibition space, an administration space, residence for the president, director, and joint director. That cost a grand amount of 60 lakhs, out of which the Rockefeller Foundation contributed a little over 40 lakhs. 37 universities contributed about 11.5 lakhs, and the remaining 8 odd lakhs was contribution by members and donors. Now the milestones in the history of this institution. December 58, it was founded when the decision was taken to set it up. March 59, it was registered with the Registrar of Societies, Delhi, as a cultural and educational society. April 1960, the first sword was turned by no less than Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, the famous lady who was also the first vice president of our center. December 1960, the foundation or the cornerstone was laid by Prince Akito and Princess Michiko, who traveled all the way from Japan to do this. Then the complex was built up in very quick time, and in February 62, 22nd of February 62, we had the inauguration of our campus by the Vice President Dr. Radhakrishnan in the presence of many dignitaries, including the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, Chintamani Deshmukh, Durgabai Deshmukh, and others. Now when we talk of Diamond Jubilee, I could speak at great length, but this is not opportunity of the time. I would say that we could look rapidly back and say, where did we begin and where have we reached in these past 60 years? The essential, very brief objective of the India International Center is to secure, move towards the advancement promotion of understanding and amity amongst various diverse human communities all over the world. And to do this, it was realized by the preparatory committee that basically communities are dominated, influenced, ruled by cultures, as much as by religions perhaps, but more by cultural or socio-cultural traditions. So it was decided that this institution would facilitate, do all that is necessary to study and understand past and present cultures all over the world. The result of these understandings, exchanges, would be disseminated. This knowledge would be broadcast to spread awareness of various cultures all over the world, which would in its own turn spread greater understanding and amity. Now, to achieve this kind of objective, it was decided that the best modality would be to have talks by eminent historians, sociologists, archivists, archaeologists, and other eminent leaders of thought. And these meaningful discussions held in a peaceful environment would contribute to gradually over a period of time promoting deeper, better understandings. So as I mentioned earlier, the premises, the campus had a conference room, 3 committee rooms, living space, hostel, lounge, dining hall, auditorium, exhibition space, administration. Basically, this space was created with the specific objective of providing the kind of convenience and amenities which would be required to host foreign visitors, foreign scholars, thinkers, authors, leaders of thought, political leaders in the world to assemble here, along with the eminent representatives in our own country. So I would say with great satisfaction and pride that over the past 60 years, this institution has, with great honor, dignity, and self-esteem, discharged and worked towards these objectives, and therefore sustained the founders' dreams and visions. We have had intellectuals and original thinkers from various parts of the country as well as all over the world visit us to speak about their areas of specialization, expertise, to have dialogue and exchanges with experts from our own country as well as other parts of the world. And during the course of these discussions, very serious and meaningful discussions, they contributed to enlargement of understanding, enlargement of awareness, knowledge, and so on. The enlargement of awareness of the public at large would, in its own way, in its own turn, lead to the public opinion being influenced or oriented in a certain direction, which is a positive direction, which is not a political direction or a religious direction, but which is a socio-cultural, intellectual orientation. I would look back at my own time association with this institution, which goes back to 4.5 decades. I had the privilege of working for this institution for nearly 9 years. And I recall in those days, times have changed now, this is not the current pattern, that world-renowned scholars, researchers, authors would be very keen, seek to come and stay with us for several months, several weeks. And one of the great lawyers, constitutionalists I remember who stayed several months with us in my time was Grenville Austin. He's written the most notable work on the working of the Indian Constitution. I would say further that besides talking about the past, our institution, as of today, remains deeply committed to continue and carry out, sustain serious dialogues on various important national and global issues. As you see today for yourself, we have various world events which are now generating growing tension around our country, in our neighborhood, far beyond, in Eastern Europe, and so on. And during the past 6 decades, again without going into excessive detail, I would say the renowned Nobel laureates, historians, great culture experts, great leaders of society, political leaders of countries, they have visited us and spoken here. In the auditorium, we didn't have the Kamala Devi block at that time, and left an imprint of what they spoke about. Among those I remember who came here offhand, Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Julius Nyerere, Martin Luther King, Dalai Lama, Pearl Buck, Henry Kissinger, Madeleine Albright, Kofi Annan, William Brandt, UN General Assembly Secretary General, and so on. They all left their imprint on the thought process in the national capital, and the intellectuals and members of our institution who heard them, who were researching in certain areas, they were enormously benefited by these visits. Now, besides our program activities, we have the lifeblood of our institution, the program activities. We have a journal called the IIC Quarterly, which is known the world over. Now, in the last 3 years, we have put it online, and people, scholars, people at large read it all over the world. Every issue contains contributions of known, eminent scholars, authors, and researchers. The third element of our intellectual existence is the library, which started with a few hundred books when we started in 1962. Today we have nearly 55,000 volumes, essentially on selected subjects, selected themes, aspects, not a library at large. I would say it's a semi-specialized library, and along with the university libraries in the capital city, provide a very good resource for the researcher. Now, a word or two about the physical side of our institution. The Plaza Martin King, the Gandhi Martin King Luther Plaza, devoted to two great apostles of non-violence. This was inaugurated by the then Prime Minister in 1970. In December 96, the Annex, which is our younger building across the road, this was inaugurated to create more space for stay as well as conferences. In March 2011, the major block here, Kamala Devi block, more conference rooms, more committee rooms, exhibition space were inaugurated. Now, since I've crossed my time, I'll end up by, with the permission of the Honorable President, quoting Dr. Radhakrishnan in his inaugural speech that he delivered when he inaugurated IIC. I quote, "It is in troubled times that we should strive for serene contemplation, for lucid and orderly thinking, for beauty, harmony, wisdom. A center like this has the setting for such activities. By organizing seminars, cultural exchanges, serious discussions on the problems which face the world, it will help to order our thinking and refashion our society. I have no doubt that the center will help to advocate all those who come under the influence in international responsibilities and in the application of values of other cultures." At the same inaugural function, The Prime Minister gave a long speech, but I'll just read out one paragraph. Quote begins, "It surprises me. Now it is here." He is referring to IIC, saying now it has been established. "To realize that we did not have it previously, because the world today is so constituted that there can be no escape from international cooperation. This international center will, of course, not change the nature of the world, but it will help in the process, which is very essential today." And I would say these remarks, these observations are as relevant today as they were 60 years ago. I would conclude by thanking all the past presidents, all the past trustees, and others who contributed to the management of the center and for keeping this great institution alive and on track. I could say that today IIC is perhaps the only apolitical institution in the entire country where leaders, thinkers, authors of very varied convictions consider it a matter of great pleasure and pride to sit on the same dais to debate contentious issues in an amicable fashion. And at the very end, yet once again, I would express my personal gratitude to Honorable Raksha Mantri ji for very kindly agreeing to be with us here this evening. Thank you, sir.
President of the India International Center, Sri N.N. Vohra ji, Director, Sri K.N. Srivastava ji, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It is my pleasure to be here among you for the inaugural function of the Diamond Jubilee celebrations of the IIC. Our capital has a long-standing tradition of rich cultural exchanges, which the IIC has been enriching for the past 6 decades. When the idea of the IIC was conceived way back in 1958 as an international platform for exchanges of the views, the world was coping with issues concerning a fair and stable international order and legacy burdens of 2 world wars. The process of decolonization was underway in Asia and Africa, with new aspirations influencing the emerging international order. As the contemporary world is going through a phase of transition, forums like the IIC become all the more relevant. The decades immediately after the independence of our country were marked by new institutions that included the IIC. Several eminent persons such as Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, John D. Rockefeller, Dr. C.D. Deshmukh and Srimati Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay helped actualize that vision. Crown Prince Akihito of Japan laid the cornerstone for the building in November 1960, underlining the institution's international character. It is also a happy coincidence that the center's Diamond Jubilee and completion of 70 years of India-Japan diplomatic relations are happening this year. Dear friends, the IIC's international character also found a beautiful expression in the design of its building. Architect Joseph Allen Stein had designed several famous buildings in the capital, but the IIC in the vicinity of Lodi Gardens commands a unique significance. The founding of this institution was done by women and men with a vision of India's future and its role in a world of international cooperation. The IIC stands for a vision of India as a vibrant democracy where it is possible to initiate dialogue in an atmosphere of amity and understanding with national and international participation. The founders of this institution had the foresight to see what could unfold in the years to come and how the IIC could be a part of developments in a new nation and also contribute to debates globally. Such debates have kept pace with time. Since its beginning in the early 1960s, programs at the center have reflected global and national concerns and continue to create awareness and influence public opinion on relevant issues. Through its close contacts with prominent academic and cultural institutions within and outside India, and through its networking with diplomatic missions in the capital, the IIC draws scholars, thinkers, and professionals from India and abroad. The list of speakers who have addressed audiences at the IIC is diverse and includes thinkers, activists, statesmen, and opinion makers. From Pearl S. Buck to Ivan Ilyich, in earlier times, the list also has, in recent times, grown to include eminent personalities such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Willy Brandt, Henry Kissinger, Noam Chomsky, the Eric Hobsbawm. Eminent names from the world of literature like Mahasweta Devi, Ahan Pamuk, and Amitabh Ghosh also figure among many prominent speakers who address the audience here. Looking at these names, it is evident that the IIC has truly developed into a forum where divergent views are not only accommodated but also encouraged to enrich dialogue and discourse. Ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to know that it was the IIC in the little garden named Gandhi King Memorial Plaza that the late Narayan Bhai Desai narrated Gandhi Katha for a week in 2010. I have been told about numerous other memorable cultural events organized here. Dear friends, a Diamond Jubilee is an occasion for celebration in the life of any institution. The IIC deserves to be congratulated for having retained and sustained its original mandate. I am happy to learn that during its Diamond Jubilee year, the IIC has chosen to especially focus on programs related to women and gender. This reminds me of Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, the great freedom fighter and social reformer who had played a key role in the making of the IIC. She was the one who, in the words of my illustrious predecessor, Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, turned the first sword for this building. She is known to have influenced Mahatma Gandhi to include women participants in the Salt Satyagraha. She was the pioneer among women who contested elections right after India's independence and thereby became a symbol of the struggle for women empowerment. As we celebrate the 75th anniversary of our independence with Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, let us also highlight the significant achievements of women and the several legal and social initiatives that seek to bring about change. There are several examples of Indian women who, before and after independence, have shattered many glass ceilings. Let us not forget the fearless women scientists of the Mars orbiter mission called MOM. Women were among the leading corona warriors who demonstrated extraordinary resilience and provided healing touch to save fellow citizens often risking their own lives. Ladies and gentlemen, women's participation in the unorganized sector of our economy is very high. The formal economy needs to do much more to empower women workforce. Women should be encouraged to participate more in what is known as STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, mathematics and management. National and global economies stand to benefit from their talent and their creative ways of responding to challenges. Dear friends, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5 seeks to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. We need to eliminate structures of violence and exclusion that block women's progress and to open all avenues for them so that they realize their potential in diverse fields. While the government has over the years taken several initiatives to make women empowerment a mass movement, I am sure debates and discussions at the IIC during the year ahead will generate suggestions to make the national initiatives more effective. Dear friends, when the great philosopher Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, who was then Vice President, inaugurated the IIC on 22nd January 1962, he outlined his vision of an institution such as this. He said, and quote, "We should strive to serene contemplation, for lucid and orderly thinking, for beauty, harmony and wisdom. A center like this has the setting for such activities," unquote. While the IIC has lived up to its expectations, I wonder if the nation has a sufficient number of similar institutions providing the setting for such activities. Of course, there have been many institutions, some older, many newer, providing a platform to thinkers, scholars and artists to come together and exchange views. Metropolitan cities such as Mumbai and Bengaluru, as well as traditional centers such as Varanasi and Prayagraj, have nurtured intellectual dialogue. But the practice, it seems, has remained restricted to certain geographies. In the Diamond Jubilee year of the IIC, I wish there were hundreds of IICs across India, in several states and small towns, setting high standards of debate and discussion. Just as the IIC has not remained an ivory tower, the new centers too would be engaged in the task of making the world a better place through the use of reason. India has had a widespread tradition of Vad Vivad and Samvad. India's ancient philosophy, called Darshan, is often acknowledged to be far more subtle and robust than the best of philosophical works produced elsewhere. Today, we need to reconnect with that heritage. I find that the people, especially the youth, are keen to learn more, not only in terms of facts, but also in terms of tools of critical thinking necessary to arrive at truth. Ladies and gentlemen, today I remember the late Sri Soli Surabji for his great contribution to this institution. I congratulate the Board of Trustees, the Executive Committee and other past and present office bearers of the IIC on the occasion of its Diamond Jubilee. I recall with appreciation the performance of Sri N.N. Bora, who was Governor of Jammu and Kashmir. I also feel happy to note that after taking over as the President of IIC, he has brought about transformational changes. My best wishes to the members and management of the IIC for an even more remarkable future. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Honorable Rashtrapati Ji, Honorable Sri N. Vora, President of India International Center, Honorable Trustees, Members of Executive Committee of IIC, ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to propose a vote of thanks. Silver Jubilee, Golden Jubilee, Diamond Jubilee, Platinum Jubilee, Centenary, etc. are very important occasions